He's Peter Schrager, NFL Network. Good morning football host. Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, and providing live coverage of the NFL Draft from Nashville coming up later on this month. What is the number one story right now in the NFL?
The Raiders. What are they doing? What are they doing?
What do you think they're doing?
I think they're staying put, and they're going to be the most boring team in the draft, and it's going to upset everybody because a lot of talk right now that the Raiders are going to use these 3 picks to jump up and maybe get Kyler Murray. I think Gruden's fascinating. I think Mayock's fascinating. I think Derek Carr is fascinating. And this feeling of, yeah, we've got our quarterback, but do we? But I think you read between the lines, and from what I'm hearing, Raiders have a better chance of moving back in this draft and just collecting as many picks as possible than making this giant leap forward. But Vegas is coming, and it's coming fast, and the Raiders have 3 first-round picks. I'm fascinated with Oakland.
Is Derek Carr their quarterback by the time they get to Vegas?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, but with hesitation. Because when they get to Vegas, it's too... he needs to be good this year. There is a very interesting dynamic right now. They brought a team-issued photographer to come to Derek Carr's house and take photos of him embracing Antonio Brown and plastered it all over Raiders.com. I've never seen that in my life. It looks like it's a PR. Like, we're all happy family. We're going to be great. We love our quarterback. But John Gruden has a history of moving on from those quarterbacks if it doesn't work in year 1 or 2.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Gruden still wants to get a quarterback in this draft. But I don't know how that goes over if you say, hey, Derek Carr's our friend. I think you're saying he's a franchise quarterback, not our franchise. Yeah, so maybe it's just semantics there. But is Carr a franchise quarterback still?
I don't know. And I hate that answer because it's discrediting a guy who I think went 8 games without interception last year, had really no help at certain points at the wide receiver position once they traded Amari away, and he suffered from injuries 2 years ago. He was a quarterback that went to the playoffs and was headed to the playoffs and got unfortunately injured in a dramatic thing, but it was an MVP season. So 2019 is a fascinating year for Derek Carr because remember, for all that he's done in the league and for all the love that Raiders fans do have for him, and they do, they're very vocal that Derek Carr is their guy, he was still a second-round pick, and 32 teams passed on him in the first round, and they gave him this $100 million contract. And I think he still has a bit more to prove.
Is Kyler Murray going to be first off the board?
I don't want to spoil this. Since February, I've been hearing Kyler Murray's won, and it's only picked up more speed. I just can't see Kingsbury taking that number 1 pick and doing anything other than going with a guy that he's been wanting to be his quarterback for 8 years. This goes back to high school.
But you don't bring in Kingsbury and not take Kyler Murray.
That's exactly right. Or you don't take the job with the Cardinals over waiting on the Jets with Sam Darnold.
Does he have the authority to take Kyler Murray?
I think it's if you're all in on me and I'm such an unorthodox hire, I need to have the assurance that this is my pick. And I think he's convinced the other guys in the room. I would be floored if Kyler Murray isn't the number 1 overall pick and goes to the Arizona Cardinals.
We always keep an eye on what Gil Brandt says when he tweets, and he invites players.
He's got the,
Yeah, he's the one who sends out the invitations to come to the draft. And when he says that there are 4 quarterbacks who have been invited to the draft, then 4 quarterbacks are going to be taken in the first round. At least that's how I read into it. So that means Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and
Daniel Jones. Ish, yeah. And the order of that can vary. In fact, I'm on the phone a lot with a lot of these GMs, and I've got multiple teams telling me that Daniel Jones is the number 2 quarterback in this draft. Maybe they don't need a quarterback, maybe they don't want a quarterback, but they have him number 2 on their board. Another team told me Drew Lock is right there with Murray on their board. And another one said, if you're looking for the long-term, Haskins is the guy. So this is the most diverse I've seen it coming into a draft. And I also think back a few years ago when everyone thought Geno Smith and E.J. Manuel go top 10. And EJ went 16th, and Geno went in the second. Like, it might be that draft also where it's Murray 1, and then we wait a long time, and it might be Locker Haskins 2, and there's no slam dunk next guy on the board, and there's no slam dunk top 10 pick out of any of those 3.
And I've been told by an NFL scout that Daniel Jones makes the most sense for the Giants because there's a connection with Eli, with David Cutcliffe, that Jones is a tough kid, and Eli likes him. You draft him, you bring him in, you let him mentor him. Because Haskins, I think, is a couple of years away from what I've been told. But Locke was the same NFL scout told me a year ago. He thought Locke was the best quarterback coming. If he went out, he would have been the best quarterback in the draft.
People love Drew Lock. But he had such a down year last year, his senior season. It was a real dip. So now it's kind of like this rehabilitation of his draft stock, and it's picking up steam. He throws the ball. People think it's one of the best releases you'll see as a prospect. I've heard comparisons to him throwing the ball to the way Mahomes was throwing the ball, which is as high praise as it gets. Big dip in his production last year. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, steady Eddie. I know the completion percentage was a little down, but smart. Eli spent off seasons with him 3 years in a row. There's a connection with Cutcliffe. But Drew Lock is a connection to Eli also. Drew Lock is represented by Tom Condon and Tom Condon's son, Tommy Condon Jr., who have been with the Mannings their entire career and have helped orchestrate some of these deals that they've worked on in the past. So don't take for assumption because of David Cutcliffe, the guru to Eli and Peyton, and his connection with Daniel Jones, that there's no connection with Drew Lock either. And I don't think David Gettleman cares about any of that, to be honest.
He's one of the popular hosts of Good Morning Football. He's Peter Schrager joining us here in the Man Cave. Russell Wilson Jr. III gave an April 15th deadline. I don't know what that means.
I don't either. And you have to have some sort of leverage or walk. Does that mean you're not showing up April 15th? Okay, well, that's voluntary stuff. That would be a little ripple. What happens when we come for training camp? Are you there training camp? That's the deadline. Or even week one. You need to be able to drop the hammer when you give a deadline. So this thing came out from the Seattle Times saying that Russell Wilson has made a deadline. Then it came out that he actually encouraged this to be done weeks earlier, and the Seahawks were aware of it. The real red herring in this thing, the thing that really threw me off, was when Jimmy Fallon has him on the Tonight Show, and the third question out of his mouth is about New York City, and how about you being the quarterback of the Giants? Jimmy Fallon is not Adam Schefter.
No, that's scripted.
That is from, and they go in that green room, and they know every question that is being asked, and that is planted by someone other than Jimmy Fallon's producers.
Absolutely.
So for Jimmy Fallon to serve him up a question about New York, and, well, you and your wife would love it here in New York, that doesn't come from the Seahawks, and it certainly doesn't come from Jimmy Fallon, NFL insider.
But Peter, the timing of the appearance, too, you add that into the mix, and it felt like, because what happens is they pre-interview you.
Oh.
All of these shows pre-interview you. Is there anything that you would like to talk? Whenever I'd be on Letterman or some of these other shows, it'd be like, anything else that you want to talk about? And I'm going to guess that Russ probably said, have Jimmy ask, because Jimmy's, he's not going to be confused with Mike Wallace.
Exactly right.
He's not going to pin you down.
We might play, a game of Pintail a donkey, but this isn't going to be, let's talk about the tobacco situation here.
But I got the feeling that was can you ask me this question? And this is what my answer is going to be.
Which is a fascinating power play. I'm going on NBC. I'm going on The Tonight Show.
I loved it.
And we're going to ask me about being a Giant, which is, again, like I said, not Jay Glazer, not Adam Schefter. Jimmy Fallon is asking him about his NFL future, and that got everyone going. And then you see this deadline thing. Yeah, when there's smoke, there's fire. Russell Wilson might not be thrilled with the Seahawks right now.
Okay, but they still have to decide if they want to pay him. If they pay him, then he's going to be there.
Yeah.
So, they can, but, they don't have a gun to their head right now.
No, there's some months, but at some point, you have to pay Russell Wilson.
Would you make him the highest paid quarterback? See, I would pay him. Aaron Rodgers got paid. Russell Wilson's every bit Aaron Rodgers in performance. Very similar. They both got a Super Bowl. He went to another one. Similar in playoff victories as well. And he's, 5 years younger than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is still great. Russell Wilson deserves to be in that category. If there's a game on the line in the final 2 minutes, I want Russell Wilson as my quarterback.
I agree. He's 5 years younger than Rodgers and has already got the Super Bowl ring. And last year, I thought was even more impressive for Russell Wilson than the Super Bowl seasons where they had the Legion of Boom defense. This one was basically like, all right, rebuilding year. I'm going to take you to the playoffs. We're going to still do it.
With an offensive coordinator who wants to run the damn football.
The Schottenheimer offense, which is not, they also led the league in rushing. So the question is this, though. Of all the teams in recent years that gave these quarterbacks these monster years, and let's take Brady out of the conversation because eventually I think Brady might actually get that major deal on his last deal, whatever that is. That's coming up soon. But Rodgers, the Packers lose. They don't make the playoffs. They have very little talent outside of him. You look at guys like Stafford and Ryan. Once they get those major deals, it's really hard. And if the Seahawks know anything, it's they built that team around the fact they had a third-round quarterback, a fifth-round corner in Sherman. Cam Chancellor wasn't a first-round pick. So it would be against their better judgment, and yet you have to take care of the quarterback. I think you have to pay Russell Wilson. Do you pay him $1 more than Aaron Rodgers? It's tough to stomach that, but I think they know in their heart of hearts Russell Wilson has been a good trooper and has better football to come. And in this league, you need the quarterback.
If I gave you the over-under with the Browns at 9, I believe it's 9.
Oh. So hard. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. I need to at least see something. Like the Steelers and the Ravens still have Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh as their coaches and have a bunch of veterans on the team who have been through I don't know one guy on that Browns roster who has been through a tough playoff run and gotten over. Like Jarvis Landry's never played, he's played in one. They lost to the Steelers. Odell's played in one playoff game. It's great on paper. And Baker Mayfield's a winner, and I love Baker Mayfield. I need to see the first month of the season before I can tell you what this Browns team is going to be.
I think the X factor in all of this that everybody forgets is Freddie Kitchens.
I don't know.
I don't know what I have.
I don't know.
It's the Browns. That front office is usually messed up. Dorsey's good. You promote a guy from offensive court. There's certain jobs that you're...
Dan, running backs coach to interim offensive coordinator to head... and
that's a rise. And now
unprecedented.
And now you have maybe the most explosive, potentially explosive offense in football. You get Kareem Hunt back. You got, a couple of wide receivers.
Good offensive line.
Yes, and you got Baker Mayfield. So that's what I think I'd be nervous about is I don't know what I have in this coach to manage all of this stuff. He has no cachet. He hadn't done anything. And you know how these players are. If you've done something, I'll listen to you. Case in point, Aaron Rodgers with Mike McCarthy. I'm like, I'm tuning you out, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what these guys, do they tune out Kitchens at some point?
There's going to be a December game, and they're going to be playing Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be tied late, and Baker Mayfield might make a mistake, and he might not throw to Jarvis Landry, and he might not throw to Odell Beckham, and there might be something. Is Freddie Kitchens the guy who, after a tough loss in December, can get these guys in a room and say, we all got to get back on the same page? And I don't know if he keep the trains. I'll say this. I was at the league meetings. He stole the show. This guy's got a huge personality, very likable, very engaging, looks you in the eye, talks to you, has his own little kind of southern drawl. Very cool coach, very likable coach, but I don't know what he can do as a head. I have no idea how he's going to handle adversity.
Will the Steelers and Giants be better next year than they were this past year? When you consider who they lost, are they actually going to be better or worse?
We do Good Morning Football, and it's 3 hours a day, and it's like, it might as well be Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown daily. That's all we talk about because
I don't know how
they're
you
so
do
captivating. It's hard. So they're so captivating, right? And yet, as the narrative shift, like the first couple of days, we're like, how do you trade Odell? And how do you trade? And now we're at this place where it's almost like you're going through the steps of the grieving process. You're like, wait a second now. The Steelers have a really likable number one wide receiver, a quarterback who loves them, and the fans are all in their corner saying, hey, let's have the guys who want to be there be on our team. The Giants, on the other hand, fans were upset about Odell, but now you add Golden Tate, you lock up Sterling Shepard, suddenly you've got the 6th and the 17th. Like, fans move on quickly, and those two franchises, they very rarely are in the doldrums for many years. I think the Giants and Steelers will be just fine with what they've got.
Yeah, I think we look at the Steelers and even the Ravens a little bit because everybody's going to be all over the Browns. And then I go, boy, if I was betting, I'd probably look at the Ravens and the Steelers ahead of the Cleveland Browns. As much as we want that story to work.
It's so wild because I don't think I've ever been higher on the Steelers in an offseason than I am right now, and that includes losing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Because I feel like the guys in the locker room who have the most respect for them are David DeCastro and Cam Hayward and Pouncey, and it's almost like the organization threw their weight behind those guys, and the rest of the locker room is going to feed off that. I don't know how James Washington's going to fit in and what Mark Barron's going to do, but if the right vibes are coming out of Pittsburgh right now, kind of if you want to be here, you're here. And I kind of rally around that. It's almost like the Belichick way where we don't need names. We need the jersey, and the jersey is what matters most, and the Steelers jersey matters a lot.
If you could interview Antonio Brown or Ben Roethlisberger, who would you want?
I'd like to hear Ben because I think Antonio's taken a lot of slings, and he's kind of gone at Ben, and Ben's kind of laid back this entire offseason. I'd like to hear what Ben has to say. Taking a lot of shots.
If you could interview Mike McCarthy or Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh, give me McCarthy. Give me McCarthy. I thought it was interesting when all that stuff went down. Real quick, Aaron Rodgers was the one talking. It took a few days until Mark Murphy came out and said, no, it's all false. Like, I was waiting for the team. They got to it eventually.
You're a New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
So,
Hipster.
Yeah. Could you rank the top two hipsters here?
Yeah, so I think Seaton's look is actually current hipster. That's like what Odell would be wearing right now.
It's a Tannenbaums, the Royal Tannenbaums.
I like that. I didn't think of it that way.
Royal Tannenbaums.
McLovin's got I don't know what he's got going on. Yours is close.
What am I missing?
It needs to be a little tighter, like they're right. Okay. The jacket, the denim jacket's right.
Okay.
And I don't know if it needs necessarily heavy metal band, no AC/DC or any of that, but like a good Hard Rock Cafe pin, like really ironic. Like going back that way.
Like a Nirvana?
No, not bands.
Radio. Oh, no. Okay.
More brand, like vintage
slogan.
brand.
Like
slogan.
a smiley face.
Yeah.
Planet Hollywood.
A Saved by the Bell logo.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. That's more 90s.
Oh, that's what I'm looking for?
Dawson's Creek right on the chest. You're in.
Well, I did have that moment with Katie Holmes years ago.
Was it?
Yeah, I loved her, but, wasn't reciprocated. He's Peter Schrager, NFL Network's Good Morning Football host. You have kids, right?
I have a son, yeah.
Okay. Is your wife pregnant again?
No.
Okay. I hope that she could get pregnant because I want her to be shregnant.
This is some stretch. What do we got? What do we Shregnant. That's a great word.
Schrager and shregnant.
Okay, she's been shregnant once.
Yeah, but I thought of that last night because I knew you were coming in.
About last night?
And I went, yeah. You know what? I wonder if his wife is pregnant. She would be shregnant.
Shregnant.
Yeah.
It's great.
Now it's just something to think about.
Yeah, it's a one. We might have to have another.
But if you talk about this on Good Morning Football and your wife is pregnant, and you say, hey,
she's
thinking, she's pregnant.
Have a countdown clock, the whole thing.
Yeah, you could do that.
Shregnant.
Yeah.
I like it.
Peter, it's great to see you.
Love seeing you.
Thanks for joining us. Peter Schrager, the host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.